Your colleague Chip Roy on the House side posted earlier today that the BBB, quote, was not where it needed to be in the House, but it's markedly worse in the Senate. He also said, quote, if Senate rumors are true, once to the House, it, one, potentially adds over $1 trillion to the deficit in the budget window, two, fails to terminate the Green New Scam, leaving hundreds of billions of subsidies in place. So I wanted to ask, Senator, from what you know about the text of the Senate bill right now, do you agree with Congressman Roy?
I would call it the big, not yet beautiful bill. I think it still has a lot of imperfections. I believe the tax cuts are a good idea. I supported them in 2017. I like the idea of making them permanent. I think the idea of having immediate expensing for big equipment, for manufacturing is a great idea. So the tax portion of it, I'm enthusiastically for. The spending cuts, I think, are wimpy and anemic and are many of them fake, not real. And I believe that over the next 2 or 3 years, the deficit will get worse because of this bill. My main objection, though, is actually the raising of the debt ceiling $5 trillion. This is the largest increase in the debt ceiling we've ever had in our country. I think it's a guarantee that we are going to borrow $5 trillion more, which means in all likelihood, the deficit will go up. I asked Secretary Bessent this just this week. He came to our Republican lunch, and I asked him if the deficit will be bigger or smaller. And he wasn't real definite on that. He seemed to think that maybe the deficit would be smaller in terms of the GDP, but I disagree. I think when you have these tax cuts go into place, not the continuation of the 2017, but the new tax cuts are put in place, inevitably revenue will go down for the first year or two. If you get economic growth, it may come in and bring in more revenue ultimately over time, but I think you'll get less tax revenue in the first year or two, and you're going to get about $500 billion in new spending. There's $150 billion for military, $150 billion for border. There's $100 billion just for miscellaneous favors to pass out to people to get them to vote for the bill, and then there's another $100 billion they're talking about now for hospitals. So they say, oh, we're going to save money on Medicaid. And then they say, oh, but it's going to hurt the rural hospitals. So we need to save on one hand $100 billion, then we're going to give them $100 billion on the other hand. But we know there's $500 billion worth of spending in the bill. That will happen. That's real. We know that one of the savings is getting rid of the Biden forgiveness of student loans. But they aren't doing that. The courts have ruled it unconstitutional and it isn't occurring. So we're going to save $300 billion that really is never going to be spent. Is that a real pay for or a fake pay for?